Hi, NCN family. To say that this week and the coming weeks are a whirlwind would be an understatement, but it's 2020. I think this is pretty much par for the course for us these days. Luckily, we've done the planning, we've done the work, and I think we're well prepared for it, or as prepared as we can be. As we're moving into this holiday season, starting with Thanksgiving, I just wanted to start with a moment of gratitude that I have. I had the wonderful opportunity to work at the Kendesi polling site on the election day. And I was distributing information about the school board election. And so I show up at 5:45 in the morning, and there was already a line wrapped around our parking lot. It was cold, it was dark, but people were there. They were committed. They were ready to vote. They're ready to use their voice. And so because it was about a 2-hour wait when the polls opened, I had a lot of opportunity to speak with a number of members from the 46218 community. I was amazed by how many people were sharing connections they had to the school, whether they went there, they have kids that go there now, they've got grandkids that go there, they know employees, and the overwhelming positive messages that came from those stories was really encouraging. And so I would say to the Kendesi staff, excellent job in connecting with your community so far. I think that we're making a positive impact, and people feel very good about the work that you guys are doing. But what I'm also really impressed with was the way that the community, the way that the people in line were protecting the most vulnerable of the community. So there were a number of elderly people who showed up that day. And as I said, I mean, it was cold that day. And the line was long, a 2-hour wait. And so people were just escorting up the elderly, the people who had trouble standing or just shouldn't be out in the cold. And we're saying these people shouldn't have to wait. We should let them in earlier. And there were no objections from the line. There was a unanimous, yes, let's take care of these people who are here and they're committed. So we started setting up chairs inside, giving people places to rest, giving people places to sit, giving people priority. And it was encouraging. And for as crazy as this election has been and all the animosity and that is wrapped around it, it was a moment that was really kind of heartwarming. And I had a great opportunity. I was escorting this woman, she's in her 90s, back out to her car after she had voted. After she drove away, I kind of reflected on what her experience with voting has been like. She started voting back way before the Voting Rights Act of 1965. She has seen racism and voter oppression, suppression like we can't imagine. And yet she was there. She was committed. She wanted her voice to be heard. And that was really, really encouraging. And so I was grateful to have that experience. And I was grateful to be able to experience that with our community, our school community there at Kendesi. So it was very cool, and I highly recommend that for anybody in the future. I also wanted to just give a quick update. It's been a while since I've checked in on some of the DEI work that we've been doing, and I just wanted to remind you that myself, our team, our organization, our board are highly committed to our organization becoming one where people feel empowered to be their best, truest selves, where they feel like their voices are heard and they make an impact. And so if we think about the things that we've done so far, prior to the school year, unfortunately, in conjunction with George Floyd's murder, the conversations really ramped up. And that's when we posted our letter, our NCN letter of commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and our support of the Black Lives Matter movement. And from there, I started quickly calling our external stakeholders, community members, trying to get some idea of what are initiatives, impactful things that they've done that weren't just lip service, but actually made a difference within their organizations. And then we had those Zoom calls with the staff. And from those calls, I heard a lot of different things. And, I heard things like we needed more Black representation on the board. LaTanya Turner had just rolled off. We didn't have a Black board member, which seems odd given our community that we serve at Kendesi. And so, that was something we wanted to address. heard questions about curriculum or how are we addressing teaching Black excellence. We had some people make great points about that. So really got to hear from you guys on what are some of the anxieties that you had. Our board chair, Caitlin, completed the Interrupting Racism program through Child Advocates. And I know we have a couple other board members who are trying to schedule their own times for that. But if we think about starting at the top and making sure that we're getting a consistent understanding of DEI work, that was a great first step. Enlace had some focus groups that were able to generate some ideas and some lists for Leah. Renee, I know at Condesi, led some of the TFA sessions on DEI work. And then we were very lucky in August. We found Rob Hall, who has a background in education, highly committed to kids and making a difference in our community. And he was very excited about the potential of the Neighborhood Charter Network. And so he agreed to come onto our board in August. And so I think that was a huge win for us to be able to get Rob, whose voice is going to be really important as we continue to move forward. Once the school year launched, we were able to start engaging with Beloved Communities. Beloved Communities has a very strong national reputation. They've led this work, this DEI work, with other organizations. And we were lucky enough to be able to start engaging with them. I've had 3 planning calls with them. We've signed our letter of intent. We're ready to go. We had originally thought we were going to be able to start in October. Once we got into the work, we're part of a cohort. So there's a couple other schools in Indianapolis that are going to be participating with us as well. And Beloved Communities made the decision that with the pandemic and everything that was going on, that we were going to push the start of the official start of our work to January. So we'll be starting our work with them with the equity audit in January. But we've done all the pre-work to make sure that that's ready to go. We set some board goals. We set board goal to recruit at least 2 more members that reflect our communities. And we set a board goal to increase the multicultural diversity of Enlace's staff and start paying attention to kind of our recruitment and hiring strategies there as well. We also, so Shanae had read a book called Cultivating Genius, and I know that there are a number of people at Condesi who have also read the book. And so Shanae brought that book to me. I was able to read it. I was struck by a couple different things in the book. The Black literary societies of the 1800s, I thought was a fascinating piece of American history that really doesn't get talked about enough. And so starting to think about like, how can we start incorporating some of those kinds of concepts into our organization? And how do we start elevating student voices? How do we start teaching Black excellence? And so one of the things that we had started looking at was starting with our journalism class. How do we start weaving these things in? And unfortunately, our journalism teacher resigned, so we got set back in that work. But we've done a lot of work. We've started to talk to community members. We have some interest from the Recorder, which is a local newspaper in the neighborhood, and so I think we're going to be able to continue that work probably more effectively when we bring kids back in. But I'm excited about the potential for the work there. And then we also had a pretty intense advocacy for our Condesi families, particularly our students. IPS buses our kids at Condesi, and they decided for 13 schools, not the entire district, they were going to start enforcing a 1-mile walking zone for the school, which means they would eliminate transportation for a mile. This, to me, goes to the heart of equity and inclusion. This is building barriers to education that are unacceptable and do not need to occur. You cannot compare walking a mile through the 46218 zip code to walking through the well-lit sidewalks in Meridian Kessler. It's just not an apples to apples comparison. And it's going to adversely affect our families in ways that IPS had promised they were going to stop doing. So we've been doing a lot of work, a lot of conversation with Superintendent Johnson, the transportation team. It's an ongoing conversation. We've been talking with their board members, and it's an ongoing fight that we're going to have to continue to keep fighting right now. So that has been a huge part of our work towards creating an equitable environment for our kids and making sure, as I said, we're eliminating barriers to education, not building them. One way we did eliminate a barrier to education, though, is getting our kids access to the internet. It's the greatest source of education that the world has ever seen, greatest source of information, I should say. And us being able to push to get to one-to-one as an organization eliminates that barrier for our kids and prepares us well for times like we're about to experience, where we have to do remote education, remote learning for an extended period of time. Our planned actions, the things that are coming up, IPS is going to participate, Enlace's got staff members who are going to participate in the IPS trainings, DEI trainings. Dr. Payne leads those. They come very well recommended. Kendesi, I just got a list of people who are interested in a focus group at Kendesi. So I'm going to be reaching out to those folks, and they're going to be communicating with me on things that we want to make sure that we're addressing with our work with beloved communities. Any new or lingering ideas should be flushed out in those times as well. And then we're going to start our work with beloved communities. And so just as a reminder, there's 5 things that are incorporated in that work. It starts with our equity audit. So we look at hiring practices, vendors that we use, curriculum, all those things. And we look at how we're doing as far as equity and inclusion and diversity. And then from that, we're going to work with them to build a 3-year roadmap for how do we become the organization that we strive to become. And then incorporated with that is coaching. They're gonna have implementation coaching. The other 2 pieces are we're gonna have leadership competencies. So we'll be able to directly align our leadership initiatives and actions to the DEI work, and then we'll have an equity narrative for our organization, where we have a clear stake in the ground on who we are and what we believe. So that's exciting work. Obviously, we'll be including a lot of voices in that work. And so, again, as I mentioned, it's going to start in January. And then the last piece is the board is going to be doing town hall meetings. And so we're going to start with 2, one each semester. And we're working to get this first one scheduled within the next couple weeks. We can't have our whole board attend because then it becomes a board meeting, an official board meeting that follows our protocol. So to make sure that you guys are able to interact with the board in a less formal way, and make sure that your voices are heard, it'll be just 2 to 3 board members on each call. So that'll be a good opportunity for you guys to be able to share any thoughts or concerns you have with the board. So those are all the upcoming actions that we have planned. I think it's going to be a challenge that's worth undertaking, especially in the next 2 months as we switch to remote learning. But I think, again, we've done a lot of great work over the past couple months to prepare us for this moment. And I think we're going to be able to continue doing great things. I think about all the work that the leadership teams have done in the planning and the teachers getting the understanding the curriculum, learning all the different platforms, making sure that you're ready to make this shift. The way the student support team is able to check in with students and make sure, that whether you're a student support specialist, a behavior specialist, counselor, knowing that the social emotional piece is going to be really important. You guys are going to be really integral to this plan in the next few weeks. The ops team, what the ops team's been doing with attendance, trying to minimize our absenteeism or truism. We've been seeing upticks in our attendance because of the work that they've been doing. And that's important. We need kids to be with us in order to learn. So we're very grateful for the ops team for the work they've been doing. So I have a lot of trust and faith in our team. I think that this is going to be a challenge that we are able to rise to the occasion, and we'll be there. And so I thank you for the work that is upcoming. It won't be easy, but it will be important, and it's going to profoundly and positively impact our communities. Thank you for that, and have a great weekend.